And welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin, and this is a new morning, early in the week. Today's topic is misdirection and how often our emotions get misdirected toward things or people, circumstances that have no relationship with what the core issue is, because maybe we're confused by those emotions. We have all these emotions, and so we put them out into the world in places where they, and direct them to places where they don't really belong. So we're going to talk about how we can tune into the source cause and maybe redefine our attention and our energy to be more authentic, and thereby sort of reclaim our own power and sovereignty and honesty and our self-awareness. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it, and imagine clean, crisp light. We're going to start with light this morning, flooding into your body and electrifying and energizing and illuminating all your cells and your molecules and your electrons, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs and your bloodstream and nourishing all your cells and your organs and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and very softly and gently rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation. Like, put your attention into your fingertips and into your palms to feel how remarkable it is to be able to have sensation at all, and bring yourselves present to these remarkable physical forms that enable us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today's topic is misdirection. And there might be a better word for what I want to talk about, but it was escaping me this morning. So what we're talking about is when maybe we're feeling frustration and anger at things we can't control, or we feel out of control, and then we just blow up at the person that's nearest to us, or we find a scapegoat to be. Good morning, Robin. Welcome. It's so good to have you here with us. We find a scapegoat to be the object of our ire, when we're furious, and we just make this villain into the reason for every ill in the world, and we do that with political figures. We do it maybe with family members. We might do it with other prominent social figures. And we can sometimes do it with each other, where we blame somebody else for, essentially somebody or something else, for all the ills of the world. And the dynamic here is when it's often, this kind of behavior is often generated by a feeling of loss of control, or a feeling of frustration and fear. And so we lash out and project that energy and that emotion onto something external. And that it serves a purpose in a way. It's kind of like venting a pressure cooker, where you get to offload some of the pressure and release some of that energy. And it's a diversion, it's a misdirection, and it doesn't necessarily clear the root cause of that energy and the upset. And with self-awareness, we can come back to ourselves and recognize, oh my gosh, what is going on with me that I'm this angry? You know, what is going on with me that I'm going into this intense rant? What's all this about? I remember a situation with a friend that just I became emotionally obsessed with my rage about something. And I think that we can recognize these occurrences, or you know, when there's such an intensity of emotion. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. It's great to have you here. So glad you showed up. And when we're talking about intensity of emotion, particularly anger, when we notice that emotion arising, we can use it as a wake-up call. And same thing with frustration, anger. When we become filled with fury. Hello, Robert. So good to have you here with us this morning. We missed you. So when we have this profound outburst of emotion, or this intense uprising, when we feel like we are consumed by an emotion, it's an opportunity to look deeper. It's an opportunity and an invitation for self-awareness. What is it that's making me so angry? Why am I so angry? And typically, when we become angry, there's a sense of violation. And while our anger may be justified in many situations, it's still an opportunity to be looking at what is underlying, what is at the foundation of this experience, this emotional reactivity that is triggering me so profoundly. So with this friend that I had this situation with years ago, it had to do with me feeling like my value was being, that I was being undervalued. And I just kept going around and around and around in circles around this emotionally, and recognized that what was really going on is that I didn't feel solid in my own value. I didn't feel solid in regard to my own self-worth. And as a result, when somebody challenged something that I was connecting to my self-worth, it triggered all of that emotion, because the emotion was way out of proportion. So good morning, Lisa. So good to have you joining us. So we're talking about misdirection, and how we will often get very angry at something external, or direct our rage and frustration, and often vilify something external to us as a sort of sublimation of our own issue, of our own fear or anger, or feeling out of control in circumstances. So the not traditional, but the story about I'm really angry at this, so I went and kicked the cat, and that's a horrible vision. Not okay to go kicking cats under any circumstances, but um, that we're diverting our emotional reactivity to something that has nothing to do with it. I had a bad day at work, so I come home and bark at everybody in the family, for example. And I think that we get to look at these situations when we act out on our emotion in ways that are often damaging to others due to lack of self-awareness and due to our lack of taking responsibility, for our own feelings. We're lashing out. And I'm wondering what kinds of, where you've maybe seen that kind of behavior in yourself, like, I'm really frustrated. It's been a horrible day. And now I'm really short with you in a conversation. What's up with that? And what does it take to be able to step back and become present to what's really going on? Anger, frustration, feeling like I think anger, frustration, and lack of control are often of feeling overwhelmed are often the triggers for these kinds of misdirection type behaviors. And the thing is that in the course of the behavior, we can often find ourselves justifying why we're right in being so angry. These things sort of gain emotional steam, gain emotional momentum sometimes, where we look for things to be angry about and look for people to blame, because that gives us maybe some sense of orientation in the world, which is, it's craziness. But Rosalind says, ask self, am I being this thought or fact, or is it simply based on feelings? Am I basing this thought on facts, or is it simply based on feelings? Is this thought realistic based on any available evidence? So that's a great exercise to bring yourself back to, maybe even create some distance between yourself and that foundational emotion that is wreaking havoc in your body and being, and potentially in your environment as you extend it outward, right? But I think also the thing is that there are lots of thoughts that can be based on fact, that we can focus our attention and our fear and our anger on and be justified. And the thing is that justifying those emotions doesn't make them any more healthy. I can be looking out into the world and find many, many things to be angry and fearful about, to direct my anger and fear toward. And the facts support that anger and fear. But the fundamental truth is that that fear and that anger doesn't support me. And so when I am at peace within myself, when I am aligned within myself, then the things in the world that could be inspiring anger, frustration, and powerlessness and fear don't have to impact me in the same way. They don't have to be the locus of fear for me in my body and being. I don't have to succumb to that reaction. So Rosalind says other useful coping statements include intend, I'm thinking. In 10 years' time, this will not affect me, Rosalind says. That's it. So giving yourself a time perspective can also help to maybe talk ourselves off the ledge. Like it feels monumental now, whatever it is. And in 10 years, I might not even remember it, let alone feel the effect of it. And another way to express that, says Rosalind, is this is temporary. So, all things pass, or this too shall pass. That's great, Rosalind. Very helpful to be able to gain perspective. The thing that is at the foundation of all of this conversation really is the ability to be self-aware and to recognize, like to take these emotions as cues that we need to look deeper, like step back, step off the ledge, look inside, what's happening? Like what is this really about is another really good question, because when you're going off on something external, even if that situation or that reaction is justified, I think we get to look more deeply to see, why is it such a trigger for us? What is it that we're so reactive about? And to bring ourselves into a greater sense of balance and equilibrium regarding and relating to whatever that more foundational fear or frustration is. Good morning, Elaine. Welcome. It's great to have you here with us. We're talking about how our when we're not being particularly self-aware, when we're being drawn into the energy of emotion, that sometimes our emotions become misdirected at externalities that it's just a way for us to displace our own personal feelings of fear and frustration, so we can make somebody or something external be the scapegoat. And this is actually something that is culturally done, where a population is identified as the cause, as the villain in a certain circumstance. And we've seen that happen with our contemporary plague, where certain groups are villainized and made to be the focus of all the anger, frustration, and fear that people are experiencing, the powerlessness, the confusion. And so I can point to this group and make it their fault, and direct all my anger and frustration to them, rather than attending to my anger and frustration personally, and recognizing that there are feelings of powerlessness and disconnection in myself that are leading to this response about people on the outside. Rosalind says reframing helps. Absolutely. Reframing is such a tremendously powerful tool. So Rosalind continues, the worst case scenario practically never occurs, or replacing thoughts with more productive ones, like I have a support system in place that will help me through this difficult time. So good points, Rosalind. And about reframes, reframing is an incredibly impactful, powerful tool. And what it means is thinking about something from a different vantage point. So I'm not thinking of an immediate reframe at the moment, but well, here's a classic reframe actually, is rather than feeling victimized and at the effect of the world, the really powerful and effective reframe is Life is not happening to me, it's happening for me and through me. That's a reframe. And when our minds are able to wrap ourselves around this new way of thinking about something, it does shift our experience and it does shift our perception in very profound ways, and thereby can shift our behavior. Elaine says, when triggered, the hardest thing to do is step back and just breathe. Allow the experience to gift you with deeper self-awareness. And you nailed that, Elaine. It's true, because we end up getting working up a head of steam and going along with this emotion like a locomotive. And it's hard to, when you're going full speed in one direction, you can't necessarily make a left turn without spinning out. So you need to find ways to sort of de-accelerate or decelerate, to slow the roll, and then to be able to redirect. But oftentimes when you've got that head of steam going, the best thing for anybody to do is get out of the way until you play it out, and just we get to be patient with ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to be recognizing what's going on in the minute when we're so consumed. Sometimes it's hard to be able to see that we can just stop. And Rosalind says, I have to simply take things one day at a time. And Rosalind, that is the ultimate advice, is to be recognizing that, in fact, life is only one day at a time, that this minute and this minute and this minute, this is life. Another reframe is life happens while we're busy planning, right? It's like the way of experiencing life is to be here, present, right here, right now. The future and the past don't actually exist. They're constructs. And when we can bring ourselves present into the moment, that's where living really takes place. That's the only place that living really takes place, is in presence. Welcome, welcome, Isabel. So good to have you joining us this morning. So we're talking about how we often deflect and misdirect emotion when we're feeling out of control or fearful or angry. We often look to find a scapegoat to be the object of that emotion, because it gives us something external to blame. And the antidote for this behavior and this pattern really is greater self-awareness. And it may not happen in the moment. As we said, there's all this momentum to these energies of fury and emotion. And when we give ourselves the opportunity to be self-aware, then we can look more deeply to say, wow, that was some really intense emotion. What is really going on underneath the surface? And I feel pretty confident in guaranteeing you that there is something going on under the surface. And it's like the situation with me when I had all this anger toward a friend, like really obsessive anger at this friend who I felt was not recognizing my value. And when I was able to dig deeper, I recognized that it was me that wasn't recognizing my value. And so when somebody else had a perception about it, it triggered this major upset in me, until I was able to presence myself to what was really there. Elaine says, nothing real is a threat and nothing unreal exists. And Elaine continues, beyond judgment, life is unfolding perfectly for the love of all. And that is essentially is my life is happening for me and through me. Oftentimes circumstances don't bear that out so much, at least in our interpretation, right? Like we have all these ideas of what it looks like, what's threatening and what's frightening, and being in control, and how things aren't the way they should be, and judgments and perceptions. And as Elaine says, beyond judgment, life is unfolding perfectly. And we're the ones that are saying yes or no to that. Yes or no, we're willing to be present to life in its perfection. And it takes courage. It takes courage to be present to life in its perfection. It takes presence. It takes being present, and it takes allowing, and curiosity. We talked about how curiosity is a wonderful antidote to fear and judgment, and allowing life to unfold in its perfection does not mean that we take no action. What it means is that we allow ourselves to connect to the inspiration that generates inspired action. We are part of that unfoldment, and our actions are also part of it. So Elaine says, yep, beyond judgments or conditioning, response from bad hurts. So yep, beyond judgments or conditioned response from past hurts. Definitely. So when we're hurt, we react and we create all kinds of protections for ourselves, defenses, with the intention of protecting ourselves. And what often happens is that those defenses and protections become patterned, and then eventually become part of our own oppression, where what initially has a positive intention ends up keeping us prisoner in a lot of ways. So interesting discussion. When you find yourself snapping at people in your family or in your environment, or you find yourself flailing about in your house, or getting really angry over a silly little thing that happened, use that as an opportunity to look more deeply at what's really going on, address the real issues, address the issues at the core, because that helps to deepen our awareness and accelerate our evolution. So Elaine says, hurt people, fearful people, hurt people, the sleepy ones. So fearful and hurt people hurt other people. I'm loving and grateful for all life. And when we can get to that place of appreciation, good morning, Dennis. So good having you here this morning. We're just about to wrap up. To Elaine's point, when we can get to the point of appreciation and gratitude, then the quality of life shifts. Even when we are trying to, or are able to, particularly experience that appreciation and gratitude for things beyond our control and our understanding. So trusting that things are unfolding as they should. And again, well, there's that should word, but that things are unfolding perfectly. And that doesn't mean that we don't take action, because there are many calls to action that are arising daily for us to be responding rather than reacting to. So with that, another morning, and I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for your time, your energy, your attention, your engagement. It means the world. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network's Facebook page, and the Facebook pages for EWN One with the Earth and EWN Enlightened Living. And it is always a pleasure and a privilege to spend this time with you.